Hello, hello, hello. Hello to everyone joining. Give us a hello. Give us a hello. Say hi. Where are you tuning in from? How are you doing today? Let me know how you are. It's Wednesday. Very, very pleased to be here on a Wednesday. So say hello. Really lovely to be here. How is everybody? How you all doing? It's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour today. Having a look at how we can hire better, retain more. Got some amazing resources to share with you afterwards. Absolutely incredible resources. How are you all? Hi, Marina. Good to see you. Hi. Hey, hey, hey. So just going to give it a couple of minutes whilst everybody's joining us, hopping on over. And you're going to have to excuse my gargantuan, enormous water bottle. Hello, hello, hello. So say hi, say where you're tuning in from. Lovely to be here with you all. We've got over 50 of you online already. Really good to see you. And I can't wait to share some of the data with you today. It's going to be really interesting. And I think I've learned so much from the roundtables, from where this data has come from, so much. They've been incredible. We did this huge piece of research, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But I'm literally going to give it another minute or so, and we will get going and get into the session. I'm really here to be with you. I'm really pleased to be with you all. Is there anybody here that I haven't yet met? That I haven't got to know yet? I know I can see some people saying hello, hello, hello. Is there anyone I haven't yet had a conversation with in the past? Wellness Wednesday in Argentina. How wonderful. Okay, well, look, I think we should get going because everyone is always on a tight time frame over here. What is our lunch break? I know we've got people tuning in from the States and all over the world today, but it can be, we need to make sure that we're on time for you. So I'm going to today go through with you the overview of the findings from our big piece of research that we did at the back end of last year, and we've had 3 roundtables over the last few weeks hosting HR and talent acquisition leaders from many FTSE 250 through to smaller boutique organizations, and the insights have been incredibly helpful. Everybody that's attended this webinar today will have both the report and also a really simple but absolutely critical resources document that's going to help you all make great choices and will no doubt whatsoever have an impact for all of you. So I'm excited to share that with you afterwards. So who am I? I'm hopeful that most of you know me, but for some of you that may not, I am the super proud founder of an all-female, we happen to be a team at CNC Search. Our main head office is in London, and then we have satellite offices in Belfast, in Paris, and in Dubai. We recruit specialist teams. We have specialist teams that focus on HR, talent, and people. A large team that focus on business and office support. And then our latest and very exciting practice that's being headed up by somebody just extraordinary called Chloe, who is marketing and communications. So if you're looking for support in any of those areas, or you know somebody looking for support, either hiring or seeking a new opportunity, then you can reach out to me directly. I happen to be an ICF master coach, accredited coach, accredited in all sorts of different modalities in coaching. I'm really, really, really lucky that I have had the opportunity to use my platform to speak all over the world. I'm also a key trainer at Amazon, at Sony, at Warner Brothers, and various others. I'm an absolute passionate believer in all of our infinite potential, and everything we do as part of our project work at CNC is designed to really build our the value that we offer both our candidate and our client communities. And we bring our clients together as often as we possibly can at roundtables and other events in order that we can really, I think, promote peer-to-peer learning. For me, on a personal level, I know just how critical network is. I'm somebody that's always connecting people to other people, and it's become a bit of a superpower, and it's something I really want to pass on because I know just the level of impact it has. So just in terms of a sort of whistle-stop tour of the housekeeping bits, we are recording today's session, just so that you know. Ask questions, interact. If there's anything that I can help or support with, please shout. And again, we'll have opportunities for more questions at the end. All right, so 2022 already feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? Is that just me? Or does anyone else think that that feels like practically a lifetime ago, even though we're only in February? So much seems to have happened in 2023, both politically, geopolitically, in terms of the financially and economically, in terms of shifts that we're seeing and noting in our clients. And I wonder if it's been the same for you. But to reflect. So last year, what we saw was that there was this talent shortage that was driving up salaries, that was creating a real challenge for organizations, both in terms of retention, but also a lot of clients that became a lot more creative around how they were going to attract their teams, from whether that was embracing things like TikTok, right the way through to trying to create much more interesting environments to work in. Internal talent, we knew that was a big challenge again around the retention piece. So lots of our clients focusing heavily on upskilling and developing existing employees, in looking at how to engage, how to entertain, how to drive inclusivity. We know that, Gen X, Gen Z, candidate aspirations, the difference is colossal. And the candidate aspirations, your employees' aspirations, generationally have changed significantly. And this was also making you and our clients reflect a lot on how to bring together those different generations when there is such a lack of understanding from one to the other in many cases, about how on earth to engage those two different aspects generationally of our organizations and bring them together, and so that they understand one another, and allow it to shape policy and procedure and hiring and retention trends. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging and accessibility are all under the heading of diversity. Big focus, but strategy to attracting a diverse workforce and an inclusive environment, we know, was limited. So let's have a look at what's going on for 2023. And for any of you that have just joined, or any of you that are watching this on record, reach out to me to discuss any of these areas in more detail. Today's going to be a really, really high-line view of all of the findings from our report, and you may wish to reach out so we can discuss it in more detail. There is all sorts of focuses this year for organizations, but this was coming up. These were the predominant themes in terms of the 200 clients that took part in our survey, and in the roundtables, which were attended by nearly 70 leading HR and talent acquisition professionals. So this piece around agile working. So we are going to see 100% organizations really tighten their policy around agile working. We're going to see them establish much more cohesive company cultures through agile working. And it's provided cost savings, right? It's not going anywhere for the majority. It's improved efficiency. However, we are noticing that a lot of our clients have big concerns around building culture and improving mental well-being aligned with their agile working policies, and looking at how that can become more interlinked. We know that quiet hiring is going to be a big predicted trend for this year. And we haven't gone into a lot of quiet hiring today because it's actually a really big topic, but I will share with you a blog post on that, which includes a lot of really great recommendations around what's happening with quiet hiring and how that's going to influence and impact 2023's policies and focus. So we know that automation is increasing. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that, but we know that's going to continue. And we also know that it's going to get more and more involved in upskilling and encouraging employees to adopt new processes, new ways of working, new procedures. And that's going to be very interesting. And I no doubt whatsoever you would have heard of ChatGPT and how potentially that's going to shape how we communicate more easily. It is quite an extraordinary piece of technology. I had a play around with it, and it's if that's a sign of things to come, wow, we're going to see some extraordinary technological developments over the next 12 months or so. There's a big need this year for certainty. So what we're hearing from all of our clients is that actually employees are looking for certainty in this continuous sense of global shared anxiety and a sense of a need for feeling that at work there's a sense of safety, that certainty is needed. So they're not, your teams are not going to be as patient about wondering what career progression looks like. They need to look at what that path is. It needs to be visible. They need to understand what training's available. They need to understand what boundaries there are, what the expectations there are, and also really strong connection with all of that to well-being, to growth, and communicating that in the best way possible. We also know that social responsibility we're on our B Corp journey at the moment. My watch is starting to speak to me. We're on our B Corp journey at the moment. And I know that for our team here, that's been something that's been incredibly important to each and every team member here. And certainly in terms of all of us, we are going to have to get a lot more clear with our teams around our social actions and around employee engagement, around what we're doing to impact positively, sustainability, social impact, charitable giving initiatives, and more and more. And we know that particularly for Gen Z and the next generation that are soon to be coming into the workforce, that those companies that are able to demonstrate they walk their talk around being social responsible will have a distinct advantage in attracting the younger generations into their organizations. But I don't believe that's just specific to younger generations. I believe very, very strongly it's something that matters to all of us. And I know that when Gartner have an amazing report, by the way, I believe that one of their pieces of research around social responsibility in organizations, when they found that was being communicated regularly to teams, their engagement from their employees increased by over 20%. So absolutely massive, massive impact. Our teams don't just want a career. They want to know that they have impact. They want fulfillment. They want to understand how their job impacts bigger picture and what that really means. And most importantly, we know that now it's no good just to have it on your website. People want to know how it's felt day to day, lived and breathed. So some of the other aspects that were coming up, and again, please ask any questions or pause as I go through today. Just let me know if there's anything I can highlight more on. Is this big shift for HR huge? So we know that over 2023, organizations are going to keep developing and elevating the HR teams into far more integrated departments. So it's not going to be just a support function. It's going to be much more strategic, much more impact-led, much more integrated. And we also know that the value of people data is going to be absolutely critical to driving strategies and to attracting and retaining talent. So I wonder when the last time you did a hotspot survey, perhaps of your teams, how often you're gathering that data, whether you're having some of those. I know that in one of our roundtables, actually getting back to some of that more old school people function, having those one-to-one conversations, asking the questions. And I loved one of the suggestions that came up from our roundtable was have retention interviews. Don't just have interviews to bring people when you're bringing people into business. Use retention interviews, particularly people that have been there 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Have the interview based around how you keep that person engaged. What would their reasons be for leaving, if there were to be any? And then look at that as your direction in terms of, perhaps molding and shaping your retention strategy. This talent acquisition, the challenges, they're not about to go anywhere. I mean, we've seen mass tech redundancies, but that correction and tech will return to form. We know that too. But ultimately, we are still living in a talent shortage. I mean, for companies based in Germany, this is now absolutely critical. It's so challenging in parts of Europe to hire in the talent needed, and the UK is still struggling. So it's really time to think about your storytelling piece. What are the optics when somebody is looking at your organization outside in? What do they see? What do they know? How are you presenting your story and who you really are? And I think that storytelling piece will become more and more critical. How are you reaching those individuals? And if DEIB is part of your talent acquisition strategies, how are you actually embracing that? What does that actually mean in terms of your strategies and in terms of the way that you're reaching people? And one of the huge challenges is with the generational challenges that we are seeing in businesses at the moment, is that Gen Z expects to discuss salary. They expect to know how they're going to be rewarded. They expect to know how they're benchmarked. They expect to understand what that looks like when being compared to others within their organization. And I know that when we were at a round table, I won't be naming any names, but one particular organization had this horrendous challenge on Slack, where in sort of a moment of rebellion, everybody on Slack suddenly decided to start sharing the salaries that they were earning, because they felt it wasn't just that they were transparent. So we are going to have to face this, and I think that this is going to be more and more of a challenge for organizations that decide to keep salaries opaque, not visible. So advertise with salaries. That's also really, really critical, really critical. And don't be scared to look at how you can make and create a more transparent framework around pay and compensation. It's something we've looked at in our organization here, and it's not as scary as it may seem, I promise. Sustainability. So looking at how you are demonstrating that you care about our planet, and that is in all of our best interests. So I think that those are some of the aspects that came up time and time again, and certainly areas that should be helping you to drive strategy and look at how you create the best possible way of attracting and retaining that top tier talent that you so deserve. So some more trends to share with you, and for you to use these insights to sort of say yes or no. It's something that we can start incorporating into our strategy moving forward. So one of the big retention efforts needs to start in the recruiting process. It needs to really ensure that your recruitment process is fit for purpose. We believe from what we've looked at that about 70 to 80% of hiring processes are simply not fit for purpose. And this is where your retention effort starts. So looking at how you are delivering interviews, you know, are they behavioral or strengths-based? How you encourage diverse applicants through that process. How accessible, is there strong feedback being given? Who, if you're using, you know, recruitment partners, who are you using? What are their credentials? You know, what is their attitude to diversity, equity, inclusion? What is their attitude to how an interview takes place? How are they sharing your company's story? And that's something that I think probably one of the reasons why people choose us so often as a hiring partner of choice, because that stuff really, really matters. We live and breathe it here. Are you translating your values, that bigger picture? And the other thing is that, you know, individuals that leave jobs within 6 months, it's either obviously they can't cope performance-wise, or it's ultimately the reality of what was presented to them on interview and what the reality is in the day-to-day is not aligned. And it's so costly to lose somebody in that first 6-month period. And it's such a lost opportunity. So again, reflecting, if you are losing people in that first 6 months, really going back to that interview process, what was happening there, what was translated, what was what were we sharing in terms of how it was going to look and feel on a day-to-day basis for that individual. And this culture fit thing, interviews, hiring, it's got to be a thing of the past. It doesn't benefit your organization. It doesn't serve you. It's not going to give you the best possible chance to be at that top end of retention. You know, our retention at the moment sits here at about 11%, but that's something we have worked on so hard. And it can, and we can, I mean, we're a smaller business, so it's a little easier to have a retention at that level. But I promise, we have really transformed that, and so can you. But we need to look at culture add, not culture fit. What is this person going to bring that we do not have here? What are those particular skills? What are those passions? What is the potential? So looking at that 30% stretch, so the 30%, you know, impact, potential, future capability, skills can be taught, right? It's those aspects, and around drivers, motivators, and how they fit with those of your organization. You know, do they really connect and interlink? And part of this is also around transparency. So how are you creating clear communication channels? How are you making sure that your team are updated? Are you holding too many meetings? Are you celebrating success? Are you being open and honest about losses or struggles? Are you leaning into those challenging pieces of feedback? One of the main areas that we know where companies and organizations don't train is delivering feedback. And having challenging conversations, delivering feedback is actually so critical to retention. We have had in the past, we had an amazing expert deliver a webinar for us. So when we send out the resources after this, I'll share that webinar, because it has an amazing structure as to how to deliver feedback. And get creative about flexibility if and where you can. And remember, it cannot be one size fits all. We need to have a much more individualized approach where we can. So the first, as we move into the next part of what I'm going to share with you, just to touch on a few more areas around this piece to help support your attention through looking at what's happening during that recruitment piece, is, you know, show candidates that you're invested in their success from the very beginning. What does that look like? Talk about the onboarding discussions as part of your interview process. Let them know what that's going to feel like when they're with you. Talk about expectations. Make sure that people feel, you know, clear is kind. Make sure people understand how you will monitor impact, how you will together go on that journey to ensuring success and delivery, but also having that clarity around what that looks like, making sure that as part of that onboarding feedback, gather that onboarding process, interview process, gather feedback. You know, if you're working with us or somebody like us, make sure that you're saying, what are candidates saying about our process? What are they saying could be better? What could be different? Because all of these things together will give you competitive advantage. And it's really unusual for us to be asked feedback. And so do, make sure that you're asking those questions. And that's going to be critical, right? That's going to be really, really critical. Now, I did have somebody at one of the roundtables say, well, we've got a golden toilet syndrome at the moment. We've got this golden toilet syndrome. It's driving me mad, and I thought it was really interesting. And the golden toilet syndrome that this particular client was describing was that essentially that we've moved to a place where we're asking people so much what they need that we're actually encouraging a sense of nothing is ever enough, and that actually eventually I want a golden toilet when I go to the bathroom. And it was interesting, the response to that. So some people felt very empathetic, and others actually felt that as part of building healthy, psychologically safe, high performance, high empathy environments, that actually a continuous conversation around improvement is important, but it's about the framing rather than what can I do for you. It should be, what should we be doing together? What should we be striving for? How do we get there? And creating environments where that aspect to an opportunity to share insights, share thoughts, innovate is really, really important. And part of innovation can be things like adopting OKRs, for example. We use them here. They're used by places like Google. So adopting OKRs as a way of driving continuous engagement and development and evolution can be a fantastic tool to use. All right, so let's look at DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, really is diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and accessibility. And it is going to remain a core focus for this year. We know that organizations, we've got a long way to go top down, but we know that there is absolutely nothing but a win-win scenario for organizations having a strong focus around DEIBA. And one of our big commitments at CNC is to deliver strong, diverse shortlists, and everybody wins. There's more creativity, there's a richer sense of culture, there is much less groupthink, which, as we know, was blamed for Lehman Brothers downfall and various other monumental failures in business. We understand that you're more likely to appeal to investors, to stakeholders, to employees, to your current employees as well as future employees. So this is everyone's to everyone's benefit. So some of the trends, and when I say trends, I really mean focus, is looking at sort of total well-being, looking at mental well-being being seen as health and being a top concern. And we know that HR is one of the areas that is being ignored when it comes to mental well-being. And we also know that 98% of every single person surveyed by our piece of research reported on feeling and experiencing burnout in HR over the last year. And if we do not make sure that team is resourced, we're going to have some real challenges moving forwards. So it's an area for all of us to really think about and really give that focus to. So what are candidates looking for? What do they want? They want transparency. They want openness in interview process. They really want feedback. They are looking for you to walk your talk. They want to really understand how your online presence translates to day-to-day activity. They want you to provide a great, clear hiring timeline. They need for you to really spend some time and some thought around those aspects and really understood how you can translate that, how we can translate that. So here are some of the employees' benefits that are being offered at the moment. So we can see how little support there is for mothers, so childcare, or fathers or carers of children. Very small learning and development budgets. So there's this, you can see some real opportunities here for what people value most and what you might be able to support with even as a small business. So there is a big opportunity to really look at how you can introduce benefits that don't necessarily cost you anything, as well as various pieces of flexibility around work, and also looking at more specialized benefits. So looking at reproductive health, looking at high risk support, looking at how you can encourage people back to work after a break. There is so much, and what I'm going to do after today is send you our resource pack. And in there is lots and lots of aspects, but to let you know some of the areas where you can take immediate action is to start surveying, not too often, but in an engaged way, start surveying your current employees more. Hotspot surveys, how they're feeling, what they're looking for, what they're feeling frustrated with, having more one-to-one conversations, looking at adopting retention interviews at certain key points in people's careers, looking at communication and transparency and how you can really help to drive that, looking at storytelling and really understanding how that's perceived from the outside world as well as the inside world. Having opportunities for creativity workshops around helping in partnership with the business's objectives to drive those, looking at ways that you can continuously evolve and grow. There are some brilliant pieces of AI that can really check the tonality of adverts to see which groups you're most likely to be appealing to, whether it's using language that's traditionally seen as more feminine or more masculine. You're also going to be able to utilize some amazing training and development that we're sharing. But middle management was something that came up a lot as being under-trained and under-resourced and being squeezed from a lot of top-down demands and bottom-up pressures. So we also know that that actually that piece in middle management is really struggling right now, because especially as we face slightly different financial headwinds, that what's happening is that they're becoming more and more squeezed. So how do we resource that group? What training is available? The other aspects that came up that were going to have really significant impact in terms of everything we've discussed today was looking at reverse mentoring and partnership mentoring, looking at, if you're a bigger organization, at sponsoring particularly underrepresented groups within your organizations. So mentorship being absolutely critical, but with that mentorship having some proper structure and training and support around it. And I'm very, very happy for anybody on this call that wants to. I have a very short course on mentoring that if you wanted to utilize, you would be very welcome to. So we'll include that as well. So all of those aspects together are going to help start really improving your strategy around how you hire and how you retain, and having different accurate conversations with stakeholders internally. And when I share the resources, I'd love to get any questions back. And if there's anything that you really want to get curious about, then we can talk in more detail. But I'm going to share this full report. I'm going to share all those resources that I know are going to be supremely helpful. So if you are able to come back to me with just feedback once you've received both those, I'd so appreciate it. Be so useful. If you're somebody that wants to join our roundtables in the future, then you can just reach out to me. And obviously, if you want some support around hiring and training, then you'd be so welcome. Are there any questions? Somebody's just asked a question, so I'm just going to invite now any questions that you may have. So I've just been asked, what's the difference between sponsorship and mentorship in an organization? So great question. So, and let me share that with you now. So basically, essentially sponsorship is where somebody is in a senior position in an organization and their job is to help promote the individual that they're sponsoring. So help introduce them to networks, help introduce them to perhaps areas of the organization they haven't been yet, help drive opportunities for that individual in terms of training and development and career opportunities. Mentorship is a more regular relationship with an individual where you help to listen, where you provide structured advice, where you set goals. So it's much more almost like a coaching relationship as a mentor, rather than a sponsor, which is a responsibility to help drive somebody's career success. So I hope that answers your question. Do we have any other questions at the moment? Yes, okay. So around that training and development for middle management, what would I recommend? Well, I think for me, what I've found most impactful with clients is to look at to look at coaching, offering coaching as an organization, offering coaching and development at that level. It seems to have the most impact in terms of day-to-day behaviors. That might be inaccessible cost-wise for your organization. So there are other avenues, and some of that I will share in the resources pack that might prove useful. Is there any, do we have any other questions? Okay. How would I suggest bringing training and coaching to senior managers on diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging, and bringing awareness to them? Yes, well, ultimately, a lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belongingness affects everybody negatively. It isn't just a benefit to underrepresented parts of our society because of traditional, the traditional structures. It's something that damages all of us. So it's using somebody super skilled, basically, to come in that's very used to top-down, bottom-up approach when it comes to DEIB. And we've actually got a couple of recommendations, but I have some exceptional trainers that I can recommend to you that I know firsthand would deliver exceptional sessions for your organization. So if that's something you're concerned about, again, reach out to me directly. What is it? Okay, so I've got 2 more questions. We'd love to know your thoughts on gamification strategies to increase employee engagement, retention. Do you think you see this becoming a trend in coming years? So that is a really interesting one. So this came up in our roundtable too. And what I never do is I never talk about something I don't have a deep understanding of. So this came up in the roundtable and it was quite a sort of spicy debate as to whether or not this was going to create true employee engagement. But ease of engagement and different modalities of engagement did. And so I think gamification has its place from what I understand so far, but I think that we're going to have to understand a little bit more. I will have to understand a little bit more around the research piece as to whether that's going to become a trend or not. But I will go away and do some little bit of digging, and certainly something I can ask again in the next roundtable. What's the correct level quota of retention that companies should be aiming for? So about 20–25% would be fantastic, would be a really strong retention level, because actually you don't actually want your retention to be too high, because ultimately you need fresh ideas, you need fresh energy coming into your organization, and also it's very limiting to diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging if you don't have any turnover. So not all turnover is bad. We tend to view turnover as either good or bad, and actually you do need a level of turnover in your organization. It's important. But yeah, about somewhere around that 20–25% is stellar retention. And obviously industry sectors vary a lot. So, if you've got an industry where traditionally it's higher burnout because it's higher pressure, then that's a little different. But again, once I send these reports out to you with the various bits and pieces that I've also said I'd share today, then you can let me know if you've got specific questions or you want to deep dive into a particular area or data. You can give me a shout. That's not a problem at all. Okay. All right. Well. Yes, accessibility. What does it mean? Okay. Well, it means my ability to access information. So whether that means I might have a hearing impediment, or whether sight is my challenge accessibility wise, or whether I'm disabled. It's also, and looking at hidden disabilities. So things like autism. So it's understanding how you are able, how those individuals with a physical or hidden disability are able to join your organizations. So are they accessible? Okay. All right. Well, listen, I've loved being here with you. Bit of a whistle-stop tour today. Not quite as in depth as some of my webinars. Hi, Veronique. Nice to see you here. But I'll share all of that with you. Have a good look, and let me know what you need to know following on from this conversation. And I'm here to come in and see organisations, to come in and have meetings, to chat this through in more detail. And James, about 20-25%, somewhere around there, but it is very industry specific in terms of what people's goals are. Okay. All right, well, listen, let me know if you need me. Let me know, reach out, and I will be here to answer any questions that you may have. Always lovely to be here with you all, and I'll look forward to seeing you all, I hope, very soon.